Hi there, Michael Bovee with Consumer Recovery Network, and I'm back to talk about Chase and how to settle your credit card debt, for example, with Chase Bank or with a debt collector working for Chase Bank. So there's a post up on my website, and I probably have hit on it somewhere in some of our videos before or in the comments here on our YouTube channel, that I've always found, and still today, find Chase to be one of the easiest banks, one of the best banks, if you will, for you to engage in some kind of negotiation dialogue in order to settle debt for less than what you owe. The reason why I choose Chase is because their predictability over the years. When I was working directly with Chase to settle debt on behalf of my customers and coaching people through the process very actively, in other words, I was doing that every day, Chase was delivering really good settlement percentages, predictable at 40% or lower, typically between 25 and 40%. And even today, we still see that, although maybe not necessarily directly with Chase. Sometimes you have to now get those lower settlement offers with an agency that Chase will send your account out to for collection. When that happens is kind of right now it's in flux. Traditionally, big banks like Chase wait until you have not paid them for 180 days or 6 months when they have to charge off or take an accounting loss for your debt. That's when they would send it out for collection to an agency or sell it off to a debt buyer. Well, they're not selling debt. They haven't been selling debt for a couple of years now, and they, for the last few years, have still sent out debt to collectors at 180 days. But recently I've seen them, and we're recording this video in January of 2016, they're starting to send out to collectors at 120 days of non-payment. So when you're dealing with a debt collector for Chase, or whether you're dealing directly with Chase and their collection or recovery department, your goal of negotiating a settlement is going to be highlighted by how unaffordable your life is, first and foremost. You will typically, when dealing directly with Chase, you'll be asked some budget type of questions, like, hey, okay, this is my income, these are my expenses, and a little bit about what's going on in your life that created the hardship that you were no longer able to keep up on bills, like particularly their credit card debt. You'll answer those questions, and you need to be prepared for them, because if you look like somebody that can afford all of your bills and you're left over including paying them with a couple $100s every month, they're not going to settle for the best percentages. But when you look like somebody who had an instance came up, whether it was medical, job loss, reduction in hours, you were getting overtime all the time, no overtime, something like that happens, and your expense exercise, your income and expense exercise yields the fact that, hey, you can't afford to pay these, and you're offering, say, 30, 35%, 40% of the balance owed as a one-time payoff, one-time settlement, and you're borrowing that money from a family member or a friend, something like that. It's not even your money, then it's a much easier conversation to have. But they do go through that exercise. That's not always something that is, the income and expense exercise is not something you experience everywhere with all creditors, and it's not necessarily something you'll experience on a Chase account with a debt collector, but be prepared for it and have those details ready and in front of you. If you're dealing with a debt collector for Chase and they start in on these budget questions, it's going to follow pretty much the same outline that I just gave you. But there are instances where it's not even necessary. In fact, the older your debt is, the more it's traveled down that whole life cycle of a debt or that collection pipeline, the less likely you're going to run into those kind of questions. I do fully expect Chase to start selling debt again, as we maybe even later this year, by the end of the year. Or next. I do expect them to start placing accounts for legal collection again. They had a huge problem with that. You might be watching this video and your debt has been unpaid for so long that you're part of this subset of Chase account holders that they're not even trying to collect on anymore. Maybe they even got a judgment against you. I'm dealing with people right now, clients that call in or customers that call in, that have judgments from Chase in the courts that Chase isn't even going to try and collect on because of a agreement or a consent order that they signed on to with state attorney generals and the CFPB at a federal level. If you have problems like that, if you're dealing with Chase debt that's really old, say from 2008 to 2014, 2015 some, Post about it in the comments below, and I can help direct you to some resources that you might want to look into about your situation and how to resolve it. If you are simply just trying to settle debt with a debt buyer that's bought your debt from Chase years ago when they were still selling them, everything I've talked about applies. If you have any questions about dealing with negotiations and settling with Chase or a Chase debt collector at all, post them in the comments below. I offer my feedback for free on the channel, and you can also reach me through the hotline you see on the screen. I'm option 2. See you on the next video.